Welcome back, or welcome to The Art of Adventure. This is episode 225 with Anna Mascaro. The Art of Adventure is the podcast that helps you travel the world, run your business, and embark on an epic quest. I'm your host, lead explorer, and guide, Derek Loudermilk. Don't forget to grab your copy of Superconductors. It's my latest book, just came out last week. It's about the future of work, career strategy, and the most important skills to thrive in the future. And there's a lot of great ideas that I've taken from guests of this show and weaved together in the book. So I think you'll really appreciate that as a listener of the show. Now, today's guest, Anna Mascaro, it's a really cool guest. I'm glad to have her on. She's the founder of Terracotta Travel, and she was a listener of The Art of Adventure a couple of years ago, and it inspired her to quit her job in London and found her own luxury travel company. And she got in touch with me, and I've worked with her over the last year on building this business. Now she has a team of several people working with her on this company, and she's getting great feedback from her early customers, and she's continuing to grow the business and set up the relationships that make luxury travel possible. So one key in this episode is we really dig into how to deliver a luxury travel experience. What needs to be in place in terms of relationships, and do you actually have to go to all the places that your customers are going to be traveling to experience before they do? There's a ton of groundwork in setting up a long-term luxury tour business. And we'll get to hear about all that, and we'll get to hear about how Anna's upbringing prepared her perfectly for this business. And I think it's a really cool time to have an interview with Anna about this business because it's she's already had paying customers, so it's a legitimate business, but there's still a long way to go. And I think it's great for entrepreneurs to keep in mind that this whole process of starting and running businesses, it's never totally finished. I mean, you can sell a business, sure, and then you're out. But all along the way of growing and scaling a business and improving it, we're at different points of refinement. So this is somewhere in the middle for Anna and Terracotta Travel. So I really hope you'll enjoy this interview with Anna Mascaro and a look under the hood of Terracotta. Hi, Anna. Welcome to The Art of Adventure.
Hi, Derek. Thanks for having me. How are you today?
I'm well. Thanks for coming on the show. And this is very exciting because I've had a very close look at all of the things you've been creating with Terracotta Travel. And I'm curious, let's start with, you were working at a travel company in London, and then you decided to start your own travel company. How did you make that decision? That was just a year ago. So how did you arrive at that point?
Yeah, good question, Derek. Well, prior to working in London, as you know already, because we know each other quite well by now, but, I went traveling around the world and crossed the Panama Canal and the Atlantic Ocean and traveled extensively in the Pacific, the Caribbean, Europe. And during that time, I also worked designing high-end tailor-made trips for a company in London. So I learned all the ropes there, but I really needed a change. I really felt like London was sort of limiting my creativity, and the daily dashes of adventure were missing in my life. So I learned a lot from top industry professionals. I still hold them in high regard, but I really felt that the travel experiences I was crafting and creating really needed an oomph and more personal charm. So as of spring last year in 2017, I moved home to Spain. So I'm now living in Mallorca. And I started my new company. So it's called Terracotta Travel, and we offer amazing luxury adventures and, either staying in unique hotels or aboard private yachts. So yeah.
Cool. And you were traveling for the work you're doing with this company in London. Did you have sort of travel in your life growing up, or did you start traveling when you started working at this company?
No, I started from a very young age. As you know, I'm actually half Spanish, half Swedish. So from a very young age, I spent my summer holidays traveling with my family. So My siblings and I grew up in the sunny island of Tenerife, and during the summer holidays, we would visit our grandparents in Mallorca, and we'd sail the south coast of Mallorca on our 6-meter boat. So it was a very small boat, but, managed to fit 5 of us there. So yeah, it was a really, I've got very good memories from those times. We were invited to dock in the marinas in exchange for our freshly caught fish and home-cooked paella. So that's how it all started. And, our summer holidays were also spent every other year in Sweden, mostly in the countryside. I also have really fond memories of, picking raspberries with my grandmother, playing croquet on the grass, relaxing in the midnight sun on a swinging sofa. So traveling started very, very, very early for me. But it was, it started to grow in me a little bit more after my university degree. I studied economics and European affairs. I worked for the, financial sector for one of the world's biggest banks. And after several years based from a skyscraper in London, I left my job to travel the world. And when I returned from that trip, that's when I started working for a tour operator in London. So that's how it all kind of started, I guess.
Gotcha. And was there, growing up in your family, were there other entrepreneurs in your family, or was there anything, what was it like on the boat? What was the sort of the vibe at dinner time on the boat growing up?
I guess the vibe was very much hanging out with the people that worked in the marinas. And, I remember my dad had a very close friend who had his own dive company. So from the age of, I think, 9 years old, I did my first dive with him in very, very shallow waters, just literally, 50 meters away from the boat where we were docked. And adventure started from a very young age. So we would just hang out with the people in the marinas, with other travelers that were also traveling around with their catamarans or their own boats. And, I'd go swimming. I'm a very avid swimmer at the moment. I'm actually, I've got this goal where I actually want to go swimming from cala to cala, from cove to cove, along the entire coastline of Mallorca. And slowly I'm ticking off most of that. But yeah, swimming for me when I was a kid was just the best. And yeah, meeting other travelers. And as far as entrepreneurship goes, my parents actually worked in fashion. They used to do fashion shows around the swimming pools of 4- and 5-star hotels. So yeah, from when I was little, I used to go to the fashion shows with them, and I used to interact with the tourists that would come to the island back in the 90s. Obviously, Tenerife's tourism was booming. So yeah, I had a lot of interactions with German, British, American travelers. And yeah, I think that's kind of how, I ended up in this sector.
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's fascinating. Do you know, is there anyone that has swum around the entire island of Mallorca?
I don't. I have no idea, actually. It would be interesting to look that one up, actually. Yeah.
There might be a record in there somewhere. I love that.
I'm hoping to hit the Guinness Book of Records for sure. Yeah, that'd be good.
So, first of all, actually, maybe it'd be helpful to define just some terms. You are a luxury travel operator, luxury tour operator. What exactly does that mean? What are you doing for your customers? Or is that even the correct term?
Yeah, I think luxury travel is really a broad concept. I wouldn't solely describe what Terracotta does as luxury travel. Of course, there's a lot of comfort and luxury in the hotels that we handpick. But, we have a mission grander than that, which is to create connections between our travelers and the people in the country they are visiting. So, from the owners or, the key management people at a hotel to our local guides who show you around as though you were family, and, all those precious local characters who either work for an interesting trade or have a compelling background or history, everyone has a role to play in how the trip turns up. And yeah, as a maker of terracotta, I've just really seen over the years that, what our guests remember the most when they return home from their trips is the people they meet and the food that they eat. So luxury is just a bonus, and the luxury we provide is more around the introductions we make to local people, which, as a traveler planning your own trip, it would take you months to acquire that on your own. So, for people that have limited time, it's obviously a great way to take that shortcut and actually be able to have a more authentic trip when you can't have the luxury of going off for a couple of months.
Oh, okay. So a big part of your value, I suppose, is pairing your customers, the traveler, with the right local contacts in a country that they want to be learning about. Mm-hmm. How do you find those people on the ground to meet in the first place?
Yeah, well, that's pretty much how we set up a new destination. So, when we set up a new destination, we really look at what is undiscovered in terms of food and wine, nature and culture, people, etc. So we research, the best unique hotels in the destination. We check them out. We also go to the destination to meet our guides and their network. So that may be their family as much as, people they know, whether they're restaurant owners, local vendors, influential people. And from there, we build our off-the-shelf experiences. So the guides really are the, key as far as us being able to build connections on the ground with local people. So, for example, here in Mallorca, in the capital, in Palma, where I live, and where the Terracotta headquarters is based, one of our signature tours takes you to meet local artists and artisans, like a guitar maker, a textile artist, and a ceramist. So we're really giving people a unique look into the culture of the island, and you get to meet these locals and talk with them in their studios, which is often also their home. So I take a lot of time to organize these tours because I obviously, take the interests of our travelers in mind. And we always choose artisans with a real high level of craftsmanship as well. So the guides that we use in Mallorca are the ones that have made these introductions to local people that we can then extend onto our clients. And we spend a lot of time forging relationships with our guides and the local team and all these local characters. Because, I really think that we have to charm them before they can charm our guests as well. So it's, spending time with them, having dinner with them, sharing, and doing everything in a very slow pace as well. I think it's really important to really make people feel like you're really interested in what they're doing and in their lives, and they can really transmit a really good experience to our travelers as well.
And so these guides are in it for the long term. I mean, if you spend a lot of time building a relationship, you're going to want them to be a partner of yours for the long term, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, we even design our trips alongside our guides. So, you get the best of both worlds from, having a travel designer plan your trip, someone who knows the trade, who knows the industry inside out, that's been to see all the hotels, etc., and that overall has everything under control as far as the quality of the transportation, and very very much getting to know our travelers so we can put together a trip that really goes in line with what they're looking to get out of their vacation. Whilst the guides are there to brainstorm, to create something really unique and special, and to help us be very up to date and fresh with the latest.
Yeah. So I think it's important. Well, it's a question that I have personally, but you have one side of the spectrum of people who really want to travel on the cheap, the backpackers of the world. And you have a whole other segment that, really loves to travel in style and with ease and comfort and more on the expensive luxury side of things. What you can sort of get a personalized experience by couch surfing, by getting to know a local and staying on their couch the same way. So, yeah. So maybe you could just talk about when to think about traveling with a company like yours and when you might want to do backpacking or travel on the cheap instead, and what is the difference?
Oh, I've done both, so it's a very tough question for me. I mean, it really depends on when you want to spend lavishly and when you're not looking to make a big deal out of your trip and maybe do it yourself. I think that when you've worked very hard and solidly for a year and you're in need of a break to connect with yourself, that's a good time to spend lavishly. In my case, after 2 years setting up the Europe department for for a high-end tour operator in London. Before I moved to Spain to set up Terracotta, I flew over to Antigua to meet my partner, who was working on a super yacht at the time. I've always been someone to avoid the crowds. So we took a week off in Barbuda. And Barbuda's beaches were so isolated and so beautiful. And we splurged on our accommodation and the activities we did while there. It was really devastating to see how the island was swept away by Hurricane Irma. And we are so fortunate we were able to enjoy it before this happened. So,
oh, wow.
So I really do not regret splurging on our accommodation and our activities on that trip because, guess what? The island is still being rebuilt today. And if we hadn't done it then, God knows when that would have been possible. So, we're still in contact with our local guide who unfortunately had to move over to Antigua to make a living, etc. And, we've been there morally supporting him. And it's been great to keep in touch because he's also been keeping us updated on the progress the island's been making. But yeah, we had a fantastic trip. Our guide was actually more scared of the nurse sharks than we were when we went out snorkeling, which was really funny. But, that trip was a celebration for our new lives in Palma. It's the best trip I've ever done with Sebastian. And I think the fact that we reunited after years living in different countries and we celebrated our new chapter in life through travel made that trip the most special one we've ever done. So I think sometimes, when you're just up to the ear of work and you're just, you're needing that break, that was great. That was a really, really good trip. But, there's other things like honeymoons as well. Celebrating marriage through an inspiring honeymoon is such a great way to celebrate a new chapter in life, such as, Seb and I didn't get married, but, for us, it was a new chapter. And I think also when you get married, it's a little bit the same. When you retire as well, I think retirement should be celebrated every couple of years as well. We spend a lot of our lives working and I think, when we can finally take the time off, we deserve to go out and discover the world.
And so is that major portion of your customer base is sort of weddings, retirements, things like that?
Yeah, exactly. So mainly honeymoons, retired couples, couples just going out on yearly annual vacations, anniversaries, birthday trips. But, we often get those type of travelers that like to go out on a big trip every year and discover a new country, because most of the trips we do are usually combine a fair few destinations or they're even multi-country trips. So doing a big one every year just keeps the cycle going.
I'm after years of traveling as cheaply as possible and finally starting to stay in some nice places. It's a great different experience. Probably spend more time like on the actual property of the hotels because they're much nicer now. Like, place with nice grounds or something. Like I'm thinking specifically of the castle we were in Slovenia last year.
I love that. The Ototek, right?
Yeah. Such a, that's always been a dream to stay in a castle.
Yeah. Well, family trips are also, good ones to invest in and spend a little bit more lavishly, not crazy because obviously depending on the age of the kids, but, going out on a tailor-made vacation with the kids can be really educational as far as nature, wildlife encounters, sitting around the table, dining local food, and a great way to bond with all the family. So I'm very excited to have you travel with us, Derek, at some point.
Oh, yeah. That would be great. I hope so.
Definitely.
Let's talk a little bit about the business model. How do you make money?
Yeah. Right. How do we make money? So we get discounted rates from our suppliers. So we do not levy a substantial additional cost to our travelers for booking their trips through us. And on top of that, we add value because we act as a filter to make sure we deliver the best experience and value for our guests. So, any yacht or any accommodation or any transport company and even small regional local suppliers who specialize in specific activities, they will all give us preferential rates, which are confidential. We cannot divulge specifics of how much things cost to our clients, and we usually price up as a one figure because, we have to respect the fact that those discounts are not to be told. But yeah, we get some very good discounts from everyone we work with, and that's how we can mark up our trips to make them excellent and also good value.
Okay. And how do they know to give you a discount and not just some random Joe Schmo on the street? How does that work?
Yeah, well, usually it works differently depending on whether you're a travel agency or a tour operator. So usually tour operators such as Terracotta, who also work with travel agencies, we have a lot of US-based travel agencies who use us as a wholesaler. Usually the hotels and all the suppliers will grant us better discounts because we have we work both with the end client and also for our travel agency's clients. They also have a filtering process as much as we make sure to filter and only use the very top hotels that we've been there to see, or someone in the team has seen them. They too filter to make sure that they're working with the right folks who have the same values.
Okay, so you're a tour operator, and if you're working with a travel agent in the US, for example, you'll be taking some, so the travel agent has to make money as well. So do they mark up, like, do you give them a price for a trip and then they add a little bit on top for being their agent fee? So it's like, just to clarify. Yeah.
Yes. We usually give the travel agency a discount. So we wouldn't make as much profit on a trip through a travel agency as we would, with a client direct, because we would need to split our profit between the travel agency and ourselves. And we're usually quite fair on that. We usually split it 50-50 for, the travel agency that has introduced us to a client, and 50 for us for actually being the ones putting together the bespoke trip and executing it.
Gotcha. Because the travel agent has brought you the customer, so you don't have to do that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And percentage-wise, are you getting a lot of your customers from travel agents, or are they customers of Terracotta mostly? What's the sort of split there that you expect?
About 20% are travel agencies, and 80% are, families, honeymooners, couples, small groups of friends.
Gotcha. Could you build an entire business if you weren't a public facing company, but you're just like a behind the scenes tour operator that dealt with travel agents exclusively? Is there any businesses like that?
Yeah, I think there is. That would be called business. There is, but I still like to work with the clients themselves and be able to chat to them on the phone, and it's quite refreshing. Most travel agencies actually, they introduce us to their clients, and we give them a call, and we have a very upfront conversation with them, and they know that we partner with that specific travel agency. So we still get that contact with the client, but it still means you have someone to always take into consideration as you're during the planning phase. So I'd say, I very much enjoy to have the option to work with both, although, the more travel agencies we work with, the merrier.
Gotcha. So you need to be, since you're dealing with each customer, each person that goes on a Terracotta tour, it sounds like, I'm guessing you need to have really good customer relation skills and processes. What does it look like when a new client says, hey, I'm kind of curious, I'm thinking about booking a trip? What is the sort of process you take them through from the initial inquiry to actually getting them out on a trip?
Well, we usually start with a phone call. We take the time to listen and make sure all needs, quirks, goals are catered for. And yeah, speaking over the phone really helps us create a better trip, because we can go into detail about what our travelers are really looking to get out of their vacation, and we can understand their background, get to know who they're traveling with as well. So usually we have a brief conversation. It can be, 10, 15 minutes. get to know our clients, see if it's their first time in that country, what their interests are, and if they have any specific places in mind for the trip, how much time they have available, what their budget is. And I can't emphasize how important it is to know what the budget is. And albeit obviously a little bit uncomfortable at times, I do think it's important because it will allow us to tailor the trip to your budget. High-end luxury travel, is quite a wide, there's a very wide range of prices. So, from booking deluxe rooms at a hotel to booking suites, or going quite extravagant with, all those special experiences, after hours tours, etc. So, it's important to know what budget a traveler has before you start planning. So, yeah, when we hang up the phone, we immediately sketch out the trip. And sometimes actually when I'm on the phone to my guests and I know how many nights they have available and a ballpark budget, I'm already sketching out the trip whilst I'm on the phone and splitting the number of nights in each destination and, figuring out all the logistics. And then all I need to do when I hang up the phone, once I know what the client's interests are, is to throw in a few tours, a few experiences. And so, yeah, I fire out requests to our partners on the ground. And once I hear back from them, usually it takes between 24 to 48 hours. We do all the numbers game and we send the traveler a detailed itinerary. So that's how it works. And usually we get it spot on first time. Sometimes we need a few tweaks to get the trip absolutely spot on or perfect or just the way they want it. But most times it usually works the first time. So, yeah, knowing our clients is really key to planning a true experience that will transform your life. So it's sometimes a little bit hard to get people on the phone, but I think that most people know that it will get them a better choice for their trip, will get them a better result. So yeah, and it's obviously great to connect and build a rapport and get to know each other better.
So it seems like you must have an encyclopedic knowledge of sort of what's available in all of these places to already be sort of planning the number of days in certain time. I mean, is this because you've been to all of these places and experienced them personally? Like, how did you build that body of knowledge?
Yeah, I do research trips. I go off on these trips a few times a year. So since 2014, I've been pretty much traveling all over Europe about 4 times a year. So been to Portugal, to the main key spots to develop tours and to also check out the hotels. Been to Spain, mainland Spain twice, aside from my own personal travels as well, to scout out the best experiences, again, see all the accommodations. Also been to Italy on 2 occasions, Croatia twice. One time was to visit you. I tagged along a work trip. Yeah, that was very cool. A very busy and intense few days. But yeah, and I've also been to Montenegro. I recently did a trip in Macedonia as well, just north of Greece. Been checking things out over in Sweden. So the good thing is I'm based in Europe, so nothing's too far. And, out of a conference, you may want to design a research trip for about 7 nights or 10 days after, so that you really know your stuff. You're meeting everyone on the ground, and you're just better, more skilled at really planning a very authentic trip.
Does that feel like travel? Does it feel like work? What is the feeling when you're sort of getting to know a place like that?
Yeah, sometimes it's hard work, I'm not going to lie. Mexico, for example, for me was 18 days sleeping in different hotels every night. So by the end of that trip, I was so exhausted. But yeah, I think it really depends, The recent trip I did over to the Republic of Macedonia, it was formerly part of the Yugoslav region. It's just north of Greece. On this trip, I was guided for 4 days by one of our top guides, and every day was full of surprises and encounters with local people. And from the beekeeper to the woman who owned the apple farm that we visited, we went to an ethno museum and we met the owners. The museum was actually in their home. So that was funny to run around and try on costumes, etc., and be invited to some local grappa at the end of our visit. Also met this village hero called Tuto, who owns a hotel in the middle of a national park in a little village called Yanche. I met so many inspiring people along the way, and they all added so much value to my trip and my life. And this is just the kind of trip I wish all our travelers have the opportunity to experience. It was a real pure, heartfelt journey.
And this guide that sort of enabled all these other connections, had you met him before, or were you meeting him in person for the first time? Or
no, that was the first time I met him. We had some calls to go through program. We went through all the logistics to make sure we were getting as much out of my 4 days in the country. It's quite a compact country, so we got a lot covered. So, he helped me. I mean, I did my own research as far as the hotels go. I check and see what our competitors are selling, and I go through all the main press that our clients read. All sort of luxury travel moderators as well. They tend to feature a lot of hotels. I gather the best hotels in the country, sort of build a trip around that. So we already had a couple of conversations to plan the trip and to organize the excursions and that. But most of the local encounters were actual surprises.
Yeah, that's really cool. It sounds like this is because you have this body of experience, you have this personal knowledge, and you're getting on the phone talking with your customers, that it's a very personality. Nobody's the same as Anna. So I'm thinking part of the sort of differentiation is simply who is planning your trip. It's Anna or someone else that sort of has all the pieces in their mind, in their experience to make this happen. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think it's good to have spent time with all these people, because when our travelers go to the country, they can relate, our travelers back to me. And it means, they're treated better because we have actually spent the time to get to know them, and, we're still in contact, and, we had some real special moments, and it was just pure fun. So I think it's important that you've actually met the team on the ground, and of course it takes time to cover all the destinations we're covering, because at the moment we have 18 countries that we're specializing in, and we're still building our portfolio to include more countries. But time will tell. We're obviously expanding at the moment, where we've only been running for a year. But, we're taking inquiries for other countries, and with our network and with our contacts, we're always able to pull off a fantastic itinerary, irregardless of the destination. But the destinations where we're specializing in the most at the moment are purely Europe and Central and South America.
Europe and Central and South America. And those are places where you have spent time personally. Is that why you're starting there?
Yeah, exactly. These are destinations where, I've been designing trips to these spots for years. So, and I've also been on the ground and met the team. So they're obviously the areas where we're most proficient. My business partner, Anna, she's traveled all over the Middle East, all over Asia, and she's also lived in Africa. So, she can also put together trips to those destinations. It just means that we haven't actually recently been on the ground to check out our specific portfolio of hotels. But it doesn't mean that we don't know the right people who can really point us in the right direction. And it's great to grow your business organically as well, depending on where the demand is. So we're always welcoming new ideas from our travelers. We're happy to send tailor-made travel inspiration to our clients, as we're getting our newsletter process in place as well. But, this is as bespoke as it gets with Terracotta Travel.
So you talked about your business partner, Anna, and I know you've been growing sort of as a team. Is there a sort of a max size that you would expect if you had everyone you wanted on staff on this project? Would it could it grow forever? Is there like a limit to how big it could grow?
Yeah, of course, it would be amazing to have a full-time marketing team, a few travel designers, someone in legal and finance, someone dedicated to the website, and someone dedicated to content. Yeah, I think there's definitely scope for about 8 or 10 people to really cover all areas of the business. At the moment, it's Anna and myself, and we have three girls who are helping us with all the content for our website, which is currently being updated, which is something we're really, really excited about. It's going to feature, a lot of our sample itineraries, just to give travelers a little bit of a sense for what we offer, and also the price range of the trips, or the start from prices. And that will have our favorite properties and our favorite boats in all destinations, our favorite expedition yachts. But again, having all this information, you still have to put together the pieces, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for the moment, I've had to take care of every single aspect of the business. But, at the end of the day, I've quickly learned that in order to succeed, I have to surround myself with people who have knowledge and talents in areas that I am not so skilled at. If it wasn't for the team, I don't think Terracotta would be where it is today.
And so underlying my question actually is, you've taken on more roles and responsibilities compared to your last job in London, where you were sort of just designing trips. So what's been your experience of transitioning into sort of person who wears many more hats?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, in London, I was planning the trips, but also heading up a department. So I was managing people, which was a great intro to the world of an entrepreneur and a business owner. I guess you've asked me about what it is that I've enjoyed of that, having more responsibility, Derek?
Well, I'm just curious if you could talk a little bit about your experience of going into this new venture and like having to expand your roles and maybe parts that you didn't expect, or what you've sort of new skills that you've had to acquire to make it work.
Yeah, certainly, having a knowledge of all aspects of the business, regardless of whether you delegate it or not, you still have to be, acting as a coordinator. So, all those areas I mentioned before, marketing, sales, legal, websites, finance. It's been great. It's been a huge learning curve, and feel so lucky to have had so much support from family, friends, people from university, people I know from London, and new acquaintances as well. I don't think I ever expected to meet as many influential people and people from all walks of life since I started Terracotta. My network's got a lot broader, the world has gotten smaller, and I've grown as a person. So I think this project has been the biggest gift for me. So yeah, it's you also come to appreciate other people's work a lot more so than I maybe did before. I think I might have been a tougher cookie before than I am now. I think now when I interact with, suppliers, etc., I kind of get it a little bit more, I know how hard it is, and you can really connect with people now when you actually have a business of your own, rather than when you're working as an employee for someone else. And this is something I'm trying to teach to my team as well, because I know how it feels to work as an employee and actually take people for granted. So I think as far as everyone in the team here, they really value what people do, and that's really important to our business model. And a lot has changed, since I started this. The way I buy things as well has suddenly changed. I'm more likely to buy products from a small family-owned business than I did before, and more likely to go through a company because I've been, recommended it by someone else than I did before. I might have just Googled something and just gone for it, as opposed to actually ask around, hey, do you know someone who does this? And, you get a recommendation. And I think that's a little bit what Terracotta is a little bit more focused on, is, word of mouth, repeat clients, and, planning to get the whole of the US on board with this awesome company.
Get everybody in the US.
Yeah.
And it sounds like just a really great part of your life to have this project. So it sounds like it's been really, really great for you. Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet that you think is important for the listeners to know about?
I think, I don't know if it's hard to know without getting questions at you, but as far as travels, obviously they don't need to look any further for a travel company. We even tailor our office hours to our US travelers. So, we talk in their currency, we talk in their we measure things up the way they do, etc. So we're very familiar with dealing with
Wait,
American
are you saying
travelers.
that you use inches and miles instead of kilometers and meters when you speak to your US clients?
Yeah, and degrees Fahrenheit. So I always have my converter ready to go. So
that's hilarious.
So yeah, I think it's important, otherwise it just gets a little bit messy. So, but yeah, I mean, we're an awesome team, and once you travel with Terracotta, you'll never go back. I mean, we really make you look at travels in a new, adventurous way without taking away all the comfort and luxury. And I mean, Derek, you're an avid cyclist, and you're all in for custom bicycles, etc. I do really think traveling in a custom way is also just much better. A custom suit will always look better. A custom bicycle will always ride better, and a custom trip is just that little bit more meaningful.
Brilliant. You got me sold. Where can people find you and Terracotta?
Sure. So our website is www.terracotta, that's with double R and double T, travel.com. And our email, you can just shoot out an email to info@terracottatravel.com, or you can, send an inquiry via our contact forum on our website. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. If you want to follow us on there, we have some really great photos from our recent research trip in Costa Rica, where we went out with a professional photographer who got some really nice videos and photos from the trip. So yeah, you can find us on there, and we're only a phone call away as well. So our US and Spain head office number, they're both on our website. So yeah, just chatting over the phone is always the best way to start.
Brilliant. Anna, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been fun.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in Mallorca soon.
You got it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Anna Mascaro. I think one of my takeaways was just there's so much that goes into putting together one of these trips of a lifetime for somebody, and going and experiencing a place and getting a sense of what you can offer beforehand. I mean, this isn't something that can be done overnight. If you want a well-established base and you want to offer countries around the world as destinations for people, this is really a multi-year process of getting all that set up and then maintaining those relationships. So, I mean, congrats to Anna for saying, I'm committing long-term to this business, because that's really what it takes. Because luxury is not something that you can necessarily fly by the seat of your pants and get consistent customers coming back to you over and over again. So let us know what you learned. You can tweet at me, or actually Anna and I are both on Instagram, so you can find us over there and let us know what you learned, what your biggest takeaways were. And this seems like an appropriate spot to mention that I have some availability for taking on one or two more private coaching clients. So if you are an entrepreneur, a digital nomad, you're working on starting a business, or if you're trying to increase your performance in your career, then feel free to pop over to the coaching section of derekloudermilk.com and book in a call, and there's an application process, and I'll give you a half-hour free coaching session. We can talk career strategy. We can dig into the inside of your business, and I'll try to help you, and that's free. That's on me for being a listener. And then we can explore possibly working together. So I've got a couple spots reserved for just the right person. If you think that's you and you've been listening to the show for a while and you already know me a little bit, well, I invite you to head over there and connect with me about that. One last final request. If you are not subscribed to the podcast in iTunes or your favorite podcast app, then I would love for you to do that. That really helps boost the show up in the rankings, lets other people discover the show, and it only takes a second. So leave a rating, a review, subscribe to the show, and that'll really help us out. Thanks so much for listening to the show. Now it's your turn to go out there and be adventurous.